Hello and welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. I am Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with your co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch, and we have another jam-packed episode of the Smart Chiropractor Show where we're going to talk about mindset, clinical skills, marketing, business principles, guest interviews mixed in. Jason, today's show is awesome. It's the beginning of March. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Here we are, marching forward together yet another year. No lack of mayhem in the world right now, but we're excited to be here and, focusing on the things we can do something about. And that is putting one step in front of the other, staying positive and staying focused on the change we can affect. Lots of things we can't, lots of things we can complain about. I have a long list of them. I'm sure you do too. But that's the goal, is to stay focused and keep our minds focused on what we can do something about. So let's do that today.
Let's do it. Coming up, we're going to have a member highlight of Dr. Erik van Slooten. We have Dr. Grant Elliott as our featured guest. We have a fantastic presentation by Lisa Thomson around ACL. That's the clinical conversation. We're going to kick it off with Mindset Mentor as we do each and every week. And here we go. Smart Chiropractor Show Mindset Mentor segment. That is where we kick off each and every week because you have to get things straight up here before all of the strategy takes place. Jason, we're going to start by talking about biology of belief is our weekly topic on the Mindset Mentor segment. I'm going to kick it over to you. What does biology of belief mean, and why should everybody watching and listening pay attention to this segment on today's show?
Well, you touched on it. Let's expand on it a little bit more. Our goal here in doing the Smart Chiropractor Show each and every week is to show up, hopefully show up big and say something that adjusts your mindset that will shift the way you take actions for the better. And exponentially, those improvements create massive growth financially, personally, practice-wise, and so on. And what I wanted to talk about here today, this has been a great segment for me because I get to get digging back into the things I love most. And the reason for this is not just to feel good. It's not. That is a great byproduct. But just so everybody's clear, because many people, probably about half, maybe even more, like to skip over the ethereal, non-tangible stuff. Just give me the data. Just give me the ROI. I want to see the evidence. Just, put it in front of me and I'll take action. And here's the reality that just about every coach will tell you, and I don't just mean chiropractic coach, I mean every coach anywhere, any mentor, that you can give the same instructions. You can even give the same tools to 10 different people and you get 10 different results. And so the question becomes, what is the difference? And there's lots of possible answers to that. Environment is a possible answer. Who you are in terms of your physical appearance is a possible answer. But the number one common denominator between all of them has everything to do with how you think, how you show up, how you think about yourself. Your results can only be as good as your belief in yourself, your self-identity. If you think of yourself as someone successful, you will get different results than someone who thinks that they just can never catch a break and bad things always happen. And wherever you are on that spectrum will influence your results. And that's something a lot of times people skip over. And that's very frustrating for us. It's one of those self-awareness conversations because a lot of times when we shop for ideas, when we think about who should we work with, when we think about who should we hire, what should we purchase, we oftentimes think that the best way to know the thing we should get is based on the results of the thing. Oh, I did this ad program. Look at my ROI. Yeah, but funny, it didn't work for me the way it worked for them. And on and on and on. So mindset matters. It does. And what I wanted to really just sort of break down, I was going through, I watch YouTube videos on a regular basis while I'm doing my morning routine. And I came across some videos by a friend of mine, probably a friend of yours, maybe even a teacher of yours, Dr. Bruce Lipton. If you don't know anything about him, he's not a chiropractor, but he has taught for many years at chiropractic schools, been an amazing chiropractic advocate. I know he taught at Life West for a while. And I actually had the honor years ago, when I was in practice and he wasn't as big of a celebrity as he is now, he would teach at my practice. He gave lay lectures to my clients in my practice. And I remember at the time, it was so heavy, so intense, proteins and nanoproteins and everything. He literally would not stop for hours teaching my patients all about exactly this topic, the biology of belief. He previously used to call it fractal biology. And basically, in a nutshell, what it is it's an understanding of cellular biology, how the individual cell works. And when he describes the mechanisms of an individual cell, he then extrapolates that out for cells turned into or are organs. Organs are people. People are groups or communities, and communities are the world. He takes the microscopic and makes it macroscopic by understanding certain principles of the cell. For example, cells can only be in either growth or protection. They can either be growing towards something good or not and this is the point, or protecting themselves from danger in survival. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because if you understand on a cellular level that that's the case, then you extrapolate that out. We then have to understand our responsibility in our success. Meaning, if you're living mentally in constant fear, protection, you will take very different actions. Your biology will be different. And your ability to communicate, the collective consciousness will be different if we're collectively living in fear versus if we're living in growth. It is one of many different examples that he gets into. Now, he's a medical doctor, taught at medical school, and he's now become a celebrity, like our previous mentioned, Dr. Joe Dispenza, worldwide, internationally renowned speaker and author who's very well grounded in chiropractic philosophy and principles, teaching people that the way to be successful in life starts with your beliefs. And he does a remarkable scientific, medically based job of explaining that your intention affects everything. If you go to the quantum physics model, that the particle or wave appears based on the intention of the observer, then that will change your life and understanding of how everything in the universe works. I don't mean to get so heavy on all this stuff early on, but these are the adjustments in our mindset that make the quantum difference in your results. So can't go into all of it right here, right now. It's a brief segment for us to just sort of, scratch the surface and go, that's interesting. Check out Dr. Bruce Lipton, Biology of Belief. His videos on YouTube are fantastic. His book is great. His lectures are phenomenal. He's just a terrific guy, and I highly encourage you. Just get a sense for, does his voice and does his I guess, mannerisms and does the way he communicates this big idea resonate with you? If it does, then I think you might find yourself on a pathway of just taking a whole nother level of self-responsibility for your success. And I'll simply end with, that is where this all starts. You are responsible for your success. It is not an external event that happens. It's not when this happens, I'll feel this way. It's when I feel this way, this will happen. Now, I know that doesn't happen on our timetable that we all want. All of us have that. But understanding nature's law, understanding natural principle, and understanding quantum physics may just radically change for the better your understanding of what it's going to take to be successful. Jeff, what are your thoughts? I know you've seen some of Bruce's work, heard about it. We've talked about it. What do you say?
I really love this topic because it is something that, in my opinion, docs out there should open their minds to. There are certainly people in our profession that love Bruce Lipton. There's many perhaps watching right now that haven't heard of him. We'd encourage you to get out there. And I know that there's a faction that says he's fringe. He pushes the envelope too far. It's a little too woo-woo for me, or he's stretching things. And I'd caution those individuals really that are on that side of the fence, because the possibility is what we're all after in terms of life. And I don't mean to get too philosophical here as well, but I think it's a very wise man, woman, who takes the time to analyze, to explore, and to really assess the possibility of what's possible within their own life, within their own life arc. And Dr. Lipton Bruce, I think, does a great job exploring that possibility. It doesn't mean you need to necessarily go into every single level or go as in-depth as he does, but as you described right then, Jason, very, very well, this is a matter of we only get one shot. And over the course of our lives, our ability to curate our own experience, that is true. It's a universal truth. Everybody can acknowledge that. And I think we should, not only just as chiropractors, but as people, appreciate those individuals, some of who you brought up the last few episodes, some of who we'll explore in subsequent episodes, that take it and do push the envelope a little bit, because that's how we learn. And some of it we might say, hey, that's actually a different direction. Some of it will turn out to be exactly what we know to be true in 30, 40 years, and then look back and say, how did we ever not know this? And part of that pushing the envelope is the exploration process. And some of that is what I'm going to call, the hope of possibility. And I think that's an important thing that all of us need to keep in mind as we set our mindset, because it is dynamic. It's constantly changing. It's not one way. There's so many multifactorial components of it that all of us as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as citizens of the world should be open to possibility and explore those individuals who are pushing the envelope, because it only helps us. And I know before we get to clinical conversations, you'll have a few words on that.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Bruce summarizes it basically by just simply saying many people in the world live with the philosophy that seeing is believing. And what Bruce is trying to say is that believing is seeing. And that may sound wacko, that may sound fringe and crazy. It kind of does when I even think about it. So if it feels weird, check it out. Go listen to what he has to say. Listen to him articulate it. It's hard to summarize all the explanation for why that makes sense. But if you're looking to really break through, and that's, in fact, one of the things I will say about this, that most of us are simply living a habit. We are living a pattern of our beliefs, of who we are, what we think we deserve, what we think, as you said, that's possible for us, and what we think is impossible for us. And those thoughts, again, particle or wave, based on the observer's intention. That is a scientific reality of quantum physics versus Newtonian physics. And these are the controversial conversations that are being had right now. You just don't sell as many pharmaceutical drugs in the quantum physics model as you do in the Newtonian physics model. And we're just living in a bizarro world, warped reality of whatever you want to call it. Some call it science, some call it corruption, some call it confusion. I don't know what to call it anymore. We're just going to call it the way we see it, as it is. And again, stay focused on the things we can change. And your mind is one of those things. So that's what we're going to work on each and every mindset mentorship week here on the Smart Chiropractor. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you'll join us next week as well.
Very well done and very well said. Jason, let's move over to our clinical conversations on today's episode of the Smart Chiropractor Show. Here we go. Smart Chiropractor Show. It is time for clinical conversations. This is when we take a moment, quite a few moments as a matter of fact, to explore clinical conversations in and around chiropractic practice. We bring in an array of world-class experts, and we've been highlighting some of those experts who were featured in Axis 2021. That was last year, our clinical summit that we put together. Be on the lookout for dates for Axis 2022 coming up soon. Today we're going to feature Dr. Lisa Thomson. She's actually now the president of the California Chiropractic Association. She also is a chiropractor dedicated to sports care out in California, and she put together a fantastic presentation around ACL tears, risk, recovery, and research. We're going to take a snippet of her presentation and give you a little insight into ACL care with Dr. Lisa Thomson.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am Dr. Lisa Thomson, and I am going to be talking to you today a little bit about ACL tears, what the risks are, what recovery looks like, and what some of the latest research is. Just a little bit of our learning objectives here. We're going to start with a little bit of a review of the anatomy. We're going to talk about the prevalence of ACL tears, and that will help illustrate why this is important for especially chiropractors to understand. We're going to talk about some common mechanisms of injury, what the examination would look like, how we want to look and see if we have a potential ACL tear, what tests we should do, what the recovery looks like, and some return to play considerations, and then we'll go through a quick review of all that. So really quick, just a little bit about me so you know who you're listening to today. So again, I am a chiropractor. I practice in the greater Los Angeles area, and I am a huge sports nerd. If you know me, you know that sports are my life. And I was a soccer player. I played soccer in high school and all through college, and then when I moved out to California, I found a women's league in Long Beach to play on, and I also tore up my knees playing soccer. So not to date myself, but in 2000 I tore my right MCL and PCL. I had a goalie dive at my knee and my leg bent the wrong way and tore those two. I never had that repaired, so I still don't have a PCL. And I tore my left ACL in college. I stepped wrong to shoot a soccer ball and my knee went out. And then in that women's soccer league in Long Beach, I again tore my right MCL. Here's a quick video that I wanted to add in that helps to demonstrate a lot of the movements that some people are asking of their bodies. A lot of our athletes are asking a lot of their bodies, and this is why it's important to make sure their bodies move appropriately. So again, this is Neymar. I want you to watch his ankles. I want you to watch how his hips are moving, that side to side motion. He moves fantastic. A lot of our patients can't move like this. So it's important to understand and appreciate how much some of our athletes are really asking of their bodies to make sure that things are moving appropriately and to hopefully make sure that they're able to play their best and for a long time. A little bit of anatomy review here. Here is the knee, of course, and I mean, I guess the image kind of speaks for itself here, but the ACL and PCL are deep in there and they're going to cross through the center of the knee, and the ACL is going to be the one that's preventing that forward movement, and the PCL is more preventing the movement from the back. The PCL is more of it's more of a popular injury in like car accidents, stuff like that, where they hit the dashboard. But the ACL is more common. Well, we'll get into the common reasons for ACL tears here in a sec. So why should we care? I think most of the people watching the presentations for all of these are chiropractors. There's a lot of chiropractors here. Why should a chiropractor care about knee injuries? Why should a chiropractor care about ACL tears? So there are between 100,000 and 200,000 ACL ruptures per year in the US alone. And obviously not only is that going to impact our athletes, but it's going to impact anybody can tear their ACL. So very common injury. It is a potentially life-changing injury for some of the athletes, but it can be a very big deal, and it's ground up. So that's part of your foundation there. So very big deal, very important to at least understand the basics and what the latest research is saying as far as what people should and shouldn't do to hopefully prevent ACL tears and what the future looks like after there is an ACL tear. So you should care. All right, I like to, especially on these online presentations, I like to add some humor because it's hard to sit and watch a screen for too long. So little quick joke there. All right, so what causes an ACL tear? What's the most common way we get an ACL tear? So a sudden change in direction, improper landing after jumping, or in my case, stepping to shoot a soccer ball, at pivoting on a planted foot, sudden deceleration, so if you're going to stop real quick, and direct blows to the knee may all cause ACL tears. So of course there are others, but those are the most common ways that people are tearing their ACL. And if you did not know, women have a much higher ACL tear risk than men. And there's a couple reasons for that. We think there's a lot involved, but I will get into those a little bit more here in a minute. But women experience tears up to 9 times more often than men. Lots of potential risk factors. So again, ACL tears are really complicated, and I hope more and more research continues to come out so we can help more people not go through what a major injury it is. So leg strength matters, muscle mass absolutely matters. Muscle imbalances can play a huge role. Increased joint laxity, higher BMI, so the heavier you are, the increased chance you have of tearing your ACL. Artificial surfaces are increasing the ACL tear rates. Testosterone levels, estrogen levels, where you're at if you're a female, where you're at in your menstrual cycle. Fatigue can play a huge factor. Pelvis shape, quad dominance, ACL size, the actual size of the ACL, and the femoral notch. So again, lots involved. Most common sports that this happen, or that the tears happen with, are the ones that require a lot of pivoting and jumping. So especially pay attention if you treat a lot of basketball players, soccer players, downhill skiers, lacrosse players, of course even football. Those are the most common sports that you're going to see the ACL tears in. It's pretty obvious that trauma can cause an ACL tear. We see it all the time with football injuries. But overuse is just as important, if not more. So if somebody is playing a sport that, especially the ones we just mentioned, and they're playing a long time, they're playing for many years, and they have any of the other risk factors, the overuse injuries, the overuse ACL tears are going to happen also. So just another reason why it's so important to understand and appreciate some of the risk factors so we can hopefully help our patients avoid this major injury. A little bit more on prevalence here. So the landing position matters. When women land from a jumping position, they tend to land with the knee in a straight position, transferring the force of impact to the knee joint. Men tend to absorb more of the energy of impact by landing with their knees bent. In valgus alignment, women have an increased valgus angle of their knee, and movements of the extremity place more stress on the knee ligaments as a result of this alignment. And I'll talk a little bit more in a minute here about Q angle and the valgus alignment and just illustrate that a little bit more so you can see why that would increase the rate of the tear. Real simply, you don't need to really know all the details about the Q angle, but simply the female's hips are wider than the male's. And of course that's because females, we can have babies, which increases that Q angle. And why this is important in regards to ACL tears is because it puts more stress on the knee. It increases that valgus stress, as you can see there, and it puts the female at a increased risk, assuming that the female has a wider Q angle than the male. So that's what the Q angle is. That's why that matters. Okay, so how do we know if a patient has an ACL tear? If somebody comes into our office, how do you know? Well, one, most likely the knee, if it just happened, the knee's going to swell up quite a bit. There will be a lot of fluid in there, a lot of information, most likely. Also, I'm going to show you the anterior drawer test and posterior, but I also want you to keep in mind that sometimes, especially with the anterior drawer test, the hamstrings will tighten up so much that sometimes you'll get a false negative here. So if you suspect it at all, of course, you're going to need to order an MRI. But here is the anterior drawer test. Just going to pull it forward a little bit, a little pressure back, compare to the other side. And this is actually my knee. Since I don't have a PCL, I can show you what a positive test looks like. So obviously a lot of extra movement there. It's not supposed to do that. I know we're talking about ACLs, but basically if it was the ACL, it would go forward just a little bit more versus mine goes back a little bit more than it should. And good news, you can play soccer with a torn PCL because I still play. Okay, Lockman's test. Here's another, basically the same movements here. But just another way to look at it, depending on your preference. I'm more of an anterior drawer kind of girl, but if I'm on the field and somebody went down, which is the best time to test for an ACL tear because the muscles don't have time to tighten up yet. If I'm on the field, this is more what I am gonna do first. So patient comes in, knee injury, we do some tests. We think that we find out they have a torn ACL, get that MRI. Of course, they should also be seen by a orthopedist. We want them to also get that opinion. I'm always about the team approach, but this is a pretty obvious one. But there are some things as the chiropractor that we should understand and appreciate as far as what we can do to help, what our role might be in this type of injury, and yeah, we'll go from there. So I don't care if this patient, if we're talking about somebody who has an ACL tear or one of your many other patients, ask on the first visit what their goals are. Why are they there? Why is this person coming to see you? It helps tremendously to determine the treatment that's going to be most beneficial and how aggressive that treatment should be. For example, if you have a high school senior who just wants to finish their season and they're never going to play their sport again, you're going to treat that person differently than say a high school freshman who wants to play professionally. The same injury might be treated completely different. So always ask their goals, find out why they're there, and find out how, and that way you can determine a lot. So again, it doesn't matter who this patient is, doesn't matter if it's one of your athletes or anybody else, make sure you're asking their goals on their first visit. When it comes to treatment, this study found, and this study is a little bit old, but it found that the knees that had been treated by repair and augmentation of the ACL were significantly more stable and had significantly fewer subsequent meniscal tears versus knees that were not surgically repaired. So ACL's torn, now what? And of course, this isn't going to be our decision to make, but just so you're aware, the surgical options are a patella tendon graft where they take a piece of the patella tendon out and I'm pretty sure they take a little piece of the bone with it where it attaches on each side, and that becomes the new ACL. The hamstring can also be done in the same way. Obviously, they're not going to take a piece of bone from each side from there, but the hamstring can be done the same way. They take a little piece of that tendon and replace that for your new ACL. And then you could also get the patient could also get a cadaver donor, a cadaver new ACL. I put this slide in here for a couple reasons. One, because I love Sue Falsoni and I love her teachings, but the cause of the symptoms, the motion segment, is just as important as the source of the symptoms. We must consider health in its totality. So I think especially when it comes to the ACL injury, this quote is incredibly relevant. So, and I think as chiropractors, we're really good at understanding and appreciating this more than some other professions. We understand that if somebody comes in with a knee injury, we need to look at a lot more than just the knee. I hope we understand that anyway. I think we're getting better as a profession, but we need to look at more than just the knee. And that might be different motion segments, that might be how somebody moves, that might be their nutrition, that might be their sleep, whatever it is. So this is a very relevant slide when talking about ACLs. And if you treat athletes at all, I highly recommend you get her book. When it comes to return to play, again, this is not something that the chiropractor is most likely going to be the first person making this decision, but it's important to know what the research is saying about when athletes should be coming back from an ACL tear. So This is from a recent study, 2020. Returning to knee strenuous sport before 9 months after ACL reconstruction was associated with an approximately 7-fold increased rate of sustaining a second ACL injury. Achieving symmetrical muscle function or quadricep strength was not associated with new ACL injury in young athletes. So, I mean, obviously the first sentence is what we're looking at here. So before 9 months, that's a long time. Kids are going back a lot sooner than that. I'm hoping that and I'm seeing less and less of it, but kids are going back a lot sooner than that. I personally went back, and every time I say it, it sounds crazy, but I went back 4 months after I tore my ACL. I was playing soccer 4 months later. So I'm very lucky I didn't get hurt again. So the 9 months is important. I think in addition to this, there's a lot of other things that are important, assessing more than just the knee itself. So often only the knee is looked at when it's determined whether an athlete's ready to go back or not. And I think we should be looking at a lot more than just the knee.
Right, that was Dr. Lisa Thomson, a presentation that she had given us for Axis 2021. A couple things that stick out to me there, Jason, are number one, how incredibly dynamic our bodies are. The second component of that is people suffer injuries like this. It just happens, whether through sports, you step off a curb the wrong, whatever it might be. There's a variety of things that can cause extremity issues. In this case specifically, she was speaking about ACL issues. And when surgical intervention needs to take place, there's trauma associated with that. And that's what I take away from our last slide there is returning to play too soon after traumatic injury and then a traumatic surgery, no doubt increases the opportunity for a second and a future injury. We see the same thing in the spine. We see it in extremities, but the takeaway, the positive side of that is, wow, I saw her knee moving and shaking all over the place, yet she is still very functional because our bodies have musculature, we have support systems, we have everything built in and around to support, where even if we're not optimal in one area, which most of us aren't by the time we reach skeletal maturity, we have this dynamic ability, intelligence, however you want to define it, that gives us the ability to function at a high level for a significant amount of time. The key component is if you take care of things, if you're proactive with your health, and if you do the things necessary to keep the adjacent body regions, the adjacent musculature, strong, healthy, and functional. Jason, what are your takeaways there from Dr. Lisa Thomson's presentation?
That was it. She's was remarkable. It was great to talk to her and watch her presentation. And, she's really a go-getter. She's, both involved politically. She's involved in her practice. Sports as an athlete. It's really wonderful to see. And I think you said it beautifully. These are all examples of reasons why we should do what we can for ourselves and to teach our patients, right? We talk about teach and invite consistently. Here's another great topic to teach people. Here's how you can reduce your risk. I'd like to say avoid, but you can try to avoid, things happen, but at least reduce your risk of these bad things happening. And it's not just athletes in competition. It is regular people who just let their bodies decay, atrophy, and just don't keep them moving. It is use it or lose it. It's overly simplified, but there's truth to it. So, we also have to remember, just got to bring it up, that even with nutrition and muscles and strength and all that stuff, that the nerves to the leg come out of the lower back and the spine, and keeping our spines clear on a proactive basis can only help the matter, can only help make sure that whatever we're doing down in our legs and our knees, etc., is working to its highest functional ability innately and on its own. So great presentation. Axis was a wonderful event. Looking forward to having it again in 2022. Just great docs sharing great information with great people like all of us and all of you. It was a great event. She did terrific.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lisa Thomson, and maybe we'll have her back for a second go-around in Axis 2022. I know she has a lot of experience in the sports realm. Speaking of sports, we're going to talk research that matters next. Our March campaign is in effect, and let's head right there right now. Smart Chiropractor Show, Research That Matters segment. This is a opportunity each week to come in and chat about our monthly campaigns, more specifically, the weekly topics that our Smart Chiropractor members are getting out in their community. We like to say you should teach and invite consistently, showcase something that is value-laden, beneficial to your community. It's about them more than it's about you. If you teach and you invite, call to action, hop on the schedule, comment, share, whatever it might be, and then you do that consistently, you are going to see success with your marketing. We think about this with our membership in terms of monthly campaigns, weekly topics, and daily posts. It's the beginning of March, and that means it is Sports Chiropractic Month, and we like to say there's an athlete in all of us. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to be a pro athlete or a CrossFit superstar. All of us are trying to do some form of movement-based activity each and every day. So we use the term sports chiropractic a little bit more loosely, but we kick off the month. That's our monthly campaign. Our weekly topic for this week is all around how pro athletes deal with pain and issues. Now, we know 90% of collegiate and professional athletes, it's estimated up to 90%, utilize chiropractic care on a consistent basis. Now, the interesting part of that is Jason and I have spoken with many sports chiropractors over the last few months, and we have many more interviews scheduled, is quite often the chiropractic component is focused upon performance and recovery more than pain relief. And to me, that speaks to what I love to think about in terms of the balance between strength and flexibility. And for pro athletes and for the athlete in all of us, having a balance of strength and flexibility is key. It's key for our movement patterns. It's key to fight the effects of gravity that takes place on us each and every day. And the more that you can communicate this message to those athletes, those people, those individuals, everybody in your community, the more they can understand two separate items here for me. One is that many pro sports athletes are utilizing chiropractic. That's a nice endorsement and testimonial. The second component is now they can see themselves, understanding that I'd like to be a little bit stronger, I'd like to be a little bit more flexible, and understanding that that can aid not only in pain relief, but it can aid in performance and recovery. The more that we can continue to distill down that message, clarify that message, and help people understand that that's what we do, I think the better off we're going to be, the better off our practices will be, and the better off our communities will be. Jason, sports chiropractic, pro athletes, what are some of your thoughts?
It is a great topic. The philosophy is, I'll repeat it over and over again, teach and invite consistently. And so what you want to be looking for is something to teach your audience that would be of value to them and obviously important to you. Pro athletes is probably one of the easiest and best topics to take. Professional athletes are celebrities in most cases these days, especially the popular ones. People want to be like Mike, as they say. So if their favorite athlete is doing something, wearing a pair of shoes or using a particular type of care, it's much more likely that they're going to be interested in at least listening, if not actually going for it and using it. It's just how it works. Many of these celebrity professional athletes sort of keep it as their secret weapon, which is sort of great for them because they want to stay highly competitive. And this is your opportunity to share the secret. So however you want to do it, as you know, the whole goal of the Smart Chiropractor is we give you that sort of baseline information so that you can share your experience, your unique perspectives. You know that the material we're putting out with you and for you on a regular basis is really doing a very good, solid job bringing the topic into the consciousness of those people following you. We call them your health tribe, for those of you that are new to the show. But it's also an opportunity for you then to share your unique perspective if you're one of our clients that want to go above and beyond. You want to get best results, not just easiest results. And this is really one of those topics. And there's so many opportunities that are really out there if you're looking for them. And, several of them might be, several weeks ago was the Super Bowl. You and I've got several good friends who are chiropractors of some of the stars that played in the Super Bowl. Odell Beckham Jr. being one of them, and many others we were watching on Instagram, on Facebook, in real time, these professional athletes getting tuned up for the big game. Those are great opportunities. If you're not yourself taking care of professional athletes or even college or high school athletes. My son's a high school basketball player, hopes to be a professional basketball player. But locally, those things matter. He was on the front page of the local, sports section of the newspaper and so on. So sometimes locally, big celebrity athletes, you know who they are in your community, especially if you've got kids around that age. Those are, quote, local pros, so to speak. Highlighting their experience, whether you're the chiropractor or not, is somewhat irrelevant. Great if you are, okay if you're not. But sharing these topics on a regular basis just gives tremendous credibility and validity to what you do. The assumption is these athletes have access to the world's best doctors to help them with anything. They can afford anything, and they have the credibility to any doctor wants to say, I worked with star celebrity here. And yet, if they're choosing chiropractic, that says volume. So use these opportunities as they come up. Again, I'll just take a step back. The reason the Smart Chiropractor structure and format is so important is because it gives you a structure and a format. Most chiropractors know they should be doing something on social media. I know some of you are minutes away from retiring and you go, oh, I don't need to do any of that. Okay, you don't. But for the rest of us, if you want to build an audience of people that don't just come in when it hurts, but actually understand your unique way of expressing what chiropractic is, because we're not all the same. And that has to be a celebration of diversity, not a frustration or false hope or expectation that we ever will be all the same. It's never going to happen, nor should it. So it's an opportunity for you to talk about what you love about sports and chiropractic, your specialties about sports and chiropractic. If you have a unique adjustment styles, or if you've got unique experience or sport-specific training or coaching. We see this all throughout, whether it's the rodeo, basketball, football, tennis, golf. We've got good friends that they only work with golfers. It's your opportunity to really share your unique message with your local community, your health tribe. We set the structure, we set the format. You get to be as loud and proud as you'd like to. Professional sports is just one of those easy conversations a lot of people are often impressed by. Men, women, athletes, non-athletes, we're all enamored by sports. It's just one of those great topics, and we hope you'll take full advantage of it.
Jason, I do not want you elbowing in on my rodeo chiropractic career. Lisa.
We know them. I mean, Bo goes to the rodeo every year and works with people. So, they're out there.
It is definitely a real thing. And Research That Matters segment is brought to you by the Smart Chiropractor. It's your automated solution if you'd like to generate more new patients, better retention, and a flywheel of reactivations that happen consistently. And we're talking about ideal patients, not just warm bodies in your practice. If you would like our system to power your patient journey throughout all three of those phases without spending any money on advertising, please head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. And let's take a look at one of our members, Jason. Let's head over to our member highlights segment on today's episode, and we can see what one of our Smart Chiropractor members is doing day in and day out to teach and invite his community. Smart Chiropractor Show member highlight segment. This is when we take a few moments to highlight some of our Smart Chiropractor members that are living the philosophy of the Smart Chiropractor. And what do we mean by that? They are getting out and teaching and inviting consistently. They're showcasing the benefits of who they are and what they do to the people in their community. They're inviting them to take the next step, and they're doing it with consistency. This can take place actively or passively. Some docs, as we've highlighted over the previous weeks, are shooting videos. They're going above and beyond. But today we wanted to show you some of the automated processes that we utilize and how we personalize things across social channels to make a bigger impact. And we're going to take a peek together at Dr. Erik van Slooten's page. Let me get that brought up. Here we go. His Facebook page for Holladay Chiropractic Center. You can see nice image on top, a nice little logo there. He's located in Salt Lake City. And I want to scroll down and showcase a few posts here. This is probably looks very familiar to a lot of you if you think about your Facebook page, but there's going to be one difference, and it's a very important difference. This was a post from just a few days ago, or a week or two ago, and this is a post that has an invitation and a call to action. So a couple things that we do here at the Smart Chiropractor that's unique, and I haven't really seen anywhere else, is our ability to personalize posts for our members. And as you can see here in the post copy, we have a direct link to Dr. Erik's website. We have his phone number listed and a little bit of an inspirational message for those people that are struggling with pain. Not every post is about pain, but this is a great one with a very specific call to action. If you are struggling with back pain, let's say goodbye to it. Give me a call today. It's a little bit of teaching. It has an invitation. And if I scroll up here, you can certainly see that there's a lot of consistency going on as well, because we're powering those posts across his pages. We're taking a look at the Facebook page right now, but with the Smart Chiropractor, we also power these posts across the most popular platforms out there: Instagram, Google Business, YouTube videos, and many, many more as well. However, the takeaway message that I'm going to leave with you today as watching us is make sure that when you're putting out those posts, that you have some personalization in them. If you want engagement and you want action, not every post is going to get likes. Not every post is going to get shares or comments. That's totally cool. But what you want to have is the availability for somebody to engage with the post beyond that, by giving a phone call, by clicking over to the website, by taking those actions that you might not see visually in your feed, but that can really move the needle of your practice as you continue to go on day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. It is a long game. We are service providers as chiropractors. We live in our communities. We serve the people in our communities. That means we have time. So building that strong foundation, incredibly important. Jason, what are some of your thoughts here with this member highlight? I'm going to stay on the Facebook page for just a few moments, then I'll switch it over to the camera.
Yeah, well, I have a long history with Dr. Erik Van Slooten, a phenomenal chiropractor, terrific guy, wonderful practice, second-generation chiropractor. Just a quick tidbit, he actually started the Talk the Tick competition, and as he got into his practice, he took it over from his father, and he became too busy. He reached out and said, you are the one. I was the one he wanted to sort of take it on and continue to have it give life to the project. Great project. Anyway, side note, great chiropractor. He's doing it. You mentioned a lot of great highlights that are essential. Personalization is really a great key opportunity. Give people, again, we call it teach and invite. This is the invite part. So it's not just, this is a shift for a lot of chiropractors who used to believe that social media was a waste of time unless you were just advertising or promoting chiropractic because you wanted to teach them what you sell, what you offer, what you make money from. And marketing today is different than that. I should say effective marketing today is different than that. Marketing is different than just advertising. There was a day when advertising was pretty much your only choice when it came to marketing. There were 3 channels. The only thing people watched was television, maybe radio. That was advertising. You were interrupting a broad audience. Today, the world is different. I know you've noticed. You're probably watching this on your phone or tablet and hardly watching TV any longer unless it's sports. And even then, you might be watching it on your phone or tablet. The world is different. And what makes it different, in summary, is the number of choices people have to put their attention, which means you've got to do something different to get their attention. And selling what you do is not the answer to getting highly qualified people into your practice. What Erik is doing here, and again, I'll say that part of the key to his success, here's a great example, but the key to his long-term success, you mentioned it, we're playing a long game, is the fact that he stays consistent. This isn't the roller coaster. Hey, let's do something. Let's get some results. Then we'll stop doing what got those results because we got the results with the crazy expectation that the results are going to keep coming. Not much different than the craziness of people going, oh, thank you for getting me out of pain, doc. I feel better. I'll stop. Just about the time when the problem's going to come on back if you don't stay consistent. So we all love the C word in different ways. Consistency is the key to success. And Erik did a phenomenal job. And we love highlighting these great examples. Sometimes they're subtle, sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they're just ways in which docs are just making minor adjustments to the things we're doing for them. And sometimes they're great ideas we haven't thought of that we go, look at what he or she did. If you're doing something special and we haven't highlighted you, share it with us in our private group so we can highlight you. The goal of this segment, this program, is to really, we jokingly sort of say, show docs how they can break the 4-minute mile. How do you do something you previously thought was impossible, like teach thousands of people about healthcare and how you can help them? Most chiropractors think of themselves in their 4 walls. Who do I pay to run some ads? Am I going to show up on the first page of Google? The world is different. How do you build a health tribe of learners, students? You should think of them not as followers. You should think of them as students. And what can you teach your students on a regular basis? And then make sure you invite those who are interested in learning more an opportunity to learn more and ultimately receive your care if necessary. That's the formula. Erik Van Slooten, great to see you. Great job. Thanks for being a great example this week. We look forward to seeing your examples at some point in the future.
Yes, and if you would like to have a conversation, Erik's been involved in a conversation around PVA in the Smart Chiropractor group, which I think is a great conversation to open up. So if you are not in the Smart Chiropractor group, if you're watching this on one of our various pages, head over to the Smart Chiropractor group, get involved, chip in your 2 cents. We would love to hear from you. We have a great community of docs out there across the spectrum of chiropractic that talk clinical, talk marketing. We have some fun in the process. We might challenge each other, but we are sure to be respectful, and it is great to open your eyes to the different ways people are doing different things across the spectrum of chiropractic. So, Erik, fantastic job. We look forward to highlighting you in the future. I also know you are a great guy at video, so I'm sure we're going to come back to your page. But for today, we're going to move along to our featured guest segment with an old friend of mine and maybe a new friend to some of the viewers out there. Let's go head over to our featured guest of today. Smart Chiropractor Show featured guest segment. Featured guest segment is one of my favorites because Jason and I have the opportunity to sit down and chat with cool people doing cool things in and around the chiropractic universe. One of these individuals is Dr. Grant Elliott. I knew him before the doctor. I knew him when he was a student, blowing up Instagram. Grant has had a very unique ride within chiropractic, and I think he's only 2 years out of school. One, he built an audience of tens of thousands, 50,000 plus on Instagram before he graduated. Yes, before he graduated chiropractic school. Now he is well over 250,000 followers on Instagram. We're going to talk about that during our interview today, but there's a secondary component of this, and that is Grant has actually practically, with a little exception here, never had a brick and mortar practice and doesn't intend to have one in the future. This is a new doc doing new things, showcasing how teaching and inviting consistently can dramatically increase the impact beyond just the circle of practice that you might be thinking of. He's a great example of thinking bigger, not just bigger, can I get 2 more miles around a circle of radius around my practice, but can I have clients in Pakistan? Can I have clients in Israel? Can I have clients in India? The answer to all of that is yes, if you'd like to. Without further ado, let's see how Grant did it with a fantastic conversation Jason and I had with Dr. Grant Elliott. Hey, Smart Chiropractors, welcome to our featured guest interview today. I'm excited. We have Dr. Grant Elliott of the Rehab Fix. I've known Grant for quite a few years. He is doing some incredibly interesting things that you probably may not know exist in the chiropractic space. We're going to explore some of that and a little bit of Grant's story as well. Grant, thanks so much for taking some time and coming on and chatting with us.
Absolutely. Wouldn't like to do any other thing. Thank you so much for having me here.
You are more than welcome. I'm going to kick it off with a question here, and that is, if anybody has seen you and your brand, you have a ton of people, 250,000 people following you on Instagram, and you leverage that right out of school into a digital practice. I'm going to peel it back to then. How'd you even think and conceptualize that?
Thinking back to, oh my gosh, what is this now? A couple of years now. Yeah, I was, or maybe more than that. I was halfway through chiropractic school realized that content is king. I wanted to build a reputation, build a brand. So I started posting content, branded content, and building a brand halfway through chiropractic school, continued posting more and more and more, building a more solidified audience and more solidified authority stance on those topics I wanted to be an expert in. And before I even graduated, I had a business there waiting for me. And it has been very, very fruitful and very grateful that I started when I did.
You know, Grant, I look at you as an inspiration to the chiropractic profession, and I'll make some clarifying statements for those that like to make assumptions. Clearly, chiropractic is about adjusting people, but it's also about inspiring them. It's about connecting with them. It's about inspiring them to do the things they need to do to get well and stay well naturally. Help chiropractors understand. I mean, there's I'll say most of the profession asking themselves, you had a business getting out of college? What were you selling, real estate or supplements? Or how in the world do you think about getting that many people that come on board? Now, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. After the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks when you posted videos and you didn't have 250,000 people following you, what kept you with it instead of going, this doesn't work? And B, what is it that you offer people on Instagram that you're able to charge any kind of money to generate not just a living, but a nice living?
Part of this comes down to mentality. I'm always a long game. I'm an invested individual. And I did a little bit of research before deciding if I wanted to really jump in the content game or not. Listened to multiple podcasts. Jeff was one of them, Kevin Christie, one of them, and multiple others. And I learned, hey, this is a long game investment. So I wasn't thinking 1 day ahead, 1 week ahead, or even 1 month ahead. I was thinking 5 years ahead. So I said, you know what? No matter what my traction is, I'm going to post as many times per week as I can, and I'm going to do it for 1 year straight. I'm going to observe where I'm at in 1 year, and I will observe my options at that point. Well, it only took me 1 year to break over 100,000 followers, and the business was created throughout the process. Now, what am I able to offer through Instagram? What? Chiropractor online? What? I talked to so many people and they're like, so you're going to teach me how to adjust myself online? No. Obviously, as chiropractors, we learn so much more than just manipulation. There's a lot of people who learn nutrition, functional medicine approaches, of course, rehab. My particular realm is a big part of that as well. There's so many different ways that we can instruct someone on how to live a healthy lifestyle, and not everyone has adequate resources in their area. So I started to have people reach out to me. Hey, I want to learn how to squat without pain, deadlift without pain, go on a run without pain, and here are my limitations. By simply going through a video assessment with them, similar to what we're doing right now, but take them through some movements, we can analyze movements in many different formats, find existing restrictions, advise them on things that they can implement themselves so that they don't have to rely on a provider, and they can truly take their health into their own hands, and they can begin to implement those action steps to living a pain-free life.
That's awesome, Grant. You know, we think about it in terms of Smart Chiropractor as a teach and invite consistently, and you are literally the ideal model of that. You got out there and taught people every single day, you know, for an extended period of time. And once you had the offer, once you graduated from school, then you were able to invite people to kind of work with you and sort of, you know, enroll them, so to speak, to help them achieve whatever their goals are. When you think about sort of that balance between education and sales and marketing, and as you put out content, how do you frame that in your mind? And what are some of sort of the strategies that you use today as you're really scaling that online business?
Yeah, so there's definitely many aspects that I have learned through the fire throughout this process, right? The best way to learn business is to just jump into business and to learn it from experience. And no doubt I've learned an exceptional amount throughout this process. So throughout this, you know, like you kind of said, the marketing aspect, first off, posting content consistently and showing how it's possible, specifically in this scenario, in the online space. You need to show people how it's possible. So one simple example, I realized I was getting a lot of questions. Hey, how is this possible? How do you do this with people? So I filmed a video that I post about every 3 months now, where I used my wife as an example. I showed exactly how I'd assess her in person, and then it would cut to a view of me doing it online as well. And it showed how that process was the exact same in person versus online, to demonstrate to the viewer oh, okay, I see. You just talk about movement, you assess movement, and you implement strategies to change. So through showing that and through showing many different client testimonials, of course, and showing further demonstrations of how people can, as long as they see a tutorial of some kind, of course, they have something to follow, they can begin doing these things on their own. And then just continue to scale that, as you suggested, having the right strategies in place to take people through the process, through the enrollment process, of course, and further reinforcing the goal, the mission of this, which is for people to become empowered, to learn for themselves, once again, to not rely on a provider, and to become their own provider, to become their own knowledge source so that they can carry this with them indefinitely. Anyone can get a quick session of something done to them, but to learn information, that's something that carries with you for the rest of your life. And getting people to understand that value and learn that that is a sustainable solution, that really shows people an alternative solution that does work for many, many people.
That is awesome. I too, I'm going to break this up into two questions. The first one is when, I can hear chiropractors say to themselves, well, do people really want to know all that stuff? Because, most people come to me and they just want to lay down on the table and have you do it. And I've been making exercise recommendations for years. They never follow them. Really, do people care? So that's number one. And number two is I'd love to get granular into, what do you charge? What services do you exchange money for? Are you earning money for things you do online? Are you just teaching online and that gives you enough of an audience that then gets them to your physical facility and you generate revenue there? How does that work? And I'm going to also slip in there the question of, do you have any of your programs that really generate for you monthly recurring revenue? And if you do, what does that feel like? What's the value and value and I guess benefit of having that monthly recurring revenue come in month after month after month?
So I'll try to remember each question in sequence.
There you go.
If I need you to. So the first one is obviously sort of a call to action, even like a sales question in regards to, do people want to know that? How do you get them to do that, right? Well, I have a very short answer, to be honest. The clients that come to me are people who are motivated to get better. And there are typically people who've been, on average, dealing with low back pain for 3 or more years, have spent on average $3,000 to $4,000 plus, and have tried multiple chiros, multiple PTs, massage therapists, whatever, and are looking at a dead end. So one side of it is just by the process of the way this works, people who come to me are typically motivated to get better. Also, I'm going to kind of chuckle as I say this one, if people pay enough, they're going to do it. Okay. So once
it's important for you to emphasize because most of the profession has that backwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Low fee, high volume. People are going to listen to what you say. You got to make it hurt a little bit and people are going to do what you say. But of course you have to have a proof of concept first. What I do with my clients is before I even enroll them in my full program, my mission is to achieve results during the assessment live before I even ask anything from them. There's a proof of concept. They know what they're going to get. They can see what the next 6 months is going to bring. They're in. They know it's beneficial. They know the investment will be worth it. Most of the time, as long as you, of course, phrase everything correctly, your price is going to be well taken. Your second question. First, after developing Rehab Fix, when I was here in Tampa, I was getting a lot of people messaging me to see me in person. I was generating in-person revenue through a local practice. So I had my online business, which I'm going to explain exactly what that entails, and then my local practice as well. So I was generating clients from that very fast, I might say. With the first week that I graduated, I had 12 patients that week. So it was very, very helpful for that. That should be a big bingo for a lot of people listening if they're not producing content already. Now, at this point in time, I am no longer practicing locally in any capacity. I am 100% online. What do I offer? I offer online rehab coaching for low back pain, disc herniation, or sciatica. So essentially what that looks like, to summarize it into 10 seconds, is structured weekly plans, multiple ways to track progress every week, detailed descriptions of the exercises I am prescribing, the rep ranges, the sets, how often to do them, and a whole collection of additional lifestyle knowledge, healthy living knowledge, and even motivational knowledge sprinkled throughout the process to change the way they're viewing their body, to change the way they're viewing their life, and to ultimately leave them in a more motivated and pain-free state, and how to maintain that, obviously. So that is the exchange. That is the service that I'm offering that has been quite abundant around the globe at this point. In regards to monthly revenue, well, in regards to that primary initial package, I do a 6-month course to get people moving well, feeling good. That there's a couple different price points that are set up. There's a pay in full option or a monthly option, but I think what you're referring to is indefinitely, right? The lifetime value of a customer is what you're referring to. Once someone has gone through my program and they're happy with the progress they made, they feel good and they want to keep feeling good, there are a few options for them to maintain access to me and to maintain having a schedule. Because let's face it, if someone has developed a habit of having a schedule on their phone every day that they can follow that makes them feel good, they like to maintain that. So there's a few different options that I provide, which essentially I'll call them maintenance subscriptions, where if someone just wants regularly scheduled exercises and mobility movements that they can continue that particular month, and it changes every week, it changes every day, they can have almost what's like a online gym membership. Gives them the exercises, they need no equipment, they can do it at home. They have equipment, even better. Higher up options, if they want to maintain high access to me, continue working on new goals, continue working on new areas, or just to have a lot of contact, there are additional options for them to maintain more access, and we can continue that indefinitely as well. So there are options for them to continue generating monthly recurring revenue.
Grant, you are awesome, and I know we got to get you out because you have a client, and I'll ask you right now, where is the client? Where is your new client from?
This new client is in New Zealand. This will be my third client in New Zealand. And one quick thing, because we're talking about regions here, probably only about 40% of my clients are in the US. I have the privilege of working with people I just got off a call before this, the reason I was late, client in Australia. I have multiple clients in Australia, Egypt, India, like I said, New Zealand, all over the UK, Scotland, Wales, many in England, Taiwan, one in Japan. It is an absolute pleasure to meet so many different people from so many different backgrounds and to have a reach like this. And all of it is possible. It is very possible and very doable online.
I love it. Grant, there's so much to dive into. We're going to have to ask you back for a part 2 this year for sure. But keep up the fantastic work. You have built and grown something absolutely special, very unique. And I think this interview is going to open a lot of chiropractors' eyes to possibilities beyond what maybe they've thought of in the past. So for Jason and myself, Grant at therehabfix.com. Dr. Grant Elliott, thank you so much, man. All right. That was Dr. Grant Elliott, Rehab Fix at Rehab Fix, the Rehab Fix, explaining and showcasing how you can go about and think differently. You might be able to think bigger in some ways as a chiropractor, really building a community of individuals globally that are willing to pay you for your expertise that you can impact. And you also can think about this. This does not have to take away. If you love serving people within the 4 walls of your practice, awesome. That is fantastic. You don't need to stop doing any of that. A couple of take-home messages here in my mind were, number 1, content is king, as Grant said. Being able to generate 50,000, 100,000, 150,000 followers, those are fantastically high numbers. So don't get bummed out if you're stuck around 500 to 1,000. Everybody starts at 0. So building is all about consistency. It's all about teaching and inviting. And if you look at Grant's feed, you will see that for years. Consistently teaching and inviting has yielded the results. Second part about that, what's the importance of doing that? The importance of doing that is he curated this base, and he mentioned his first week out of chiropractic school, he had 12 new patients on the books, and it wasn't because he was walking around handing out business cards. Those people were literally waiting for him to graduate so that they could come in and see him. And now he's structured his practice, so to speak, his virtual practice, in a way that suits his goals, his ambitions, and his dreams. So for all of us that might not want to be 100% digital, Number one, that's an option. But number two is if you would love to keep an active hands-on practice, great. Consider the ability to diversify your revenue stream, because it can decrease your stress. It can add a new front door to your practice. It could give you the ability to impact people beyond the circle of your practice. And especially if you have building and growing followings of individuals who might not live near you, it gives you the opportunity to provide services to them and generate revenue for it. Jason, there's a million different directions we could go with what Grant had to say, but I'll kick it over to you for some thoughts.
Yeah, well, you touched on many of them. I'll just sort of reiterate that, you can play it a lot of different ways. And our goal is not for all of you to go, okay, I'm going to do it the way Grant's doing it, as you said. It is to open up your mind to possibilities. Listen, I love chiropractic. I love being a chiropractor. Jeff feels the same way. We're not trying to change the profession. However, I should say we're trying to improve it. But we understand what chiropractic is and what it should continue to be. But we also know the reality. I'll tell you from my own personal experience. Some of the frustrations of being a technician in practice day in and day out after almost 10 years in practice, for me became monotonous. It became a routine, and I personally wanted more growth. Now, you may or may not feel that yourself. Many of you do. What's next for me? You hire associates, satellite clinics. You do a variety of different things. Hopefully you stay in the profession to grow the profession, not take the money out and then diversify your wealth in real estate or other things. I'm not saying it's bad. I am saying that there are limitations to the business model of a simple 4 walls, roof, single doctor, single practice type of practice. What if you get hurt? What if you need to move for whatever reason, family issues, etc.? What if you want to retire? What if for whatever reason you just can't physically practice anymore? You have to do something, take care of a loved one, whatever it may be. Life happens. And so there are just limitations for individual chiropractors in practice in terms of their growth and their exit strategy. And multiple physical locations is not an easy thing to do. We know quite a few chiropractors who do it, or maybe I should say attempt to do it. And it's not easy. It's difficult. Why bring this all up? These are ways so we can help you stretch your mind of what's possible. Most of you probably are aware of Dr. Josh Axe, a chiropractor who makes millions of dollars for his company as a chiropractor. Doing what? Teaching and inviting consistently. Now, you may or may not want to sell supplements. You may or may not like him. It doesn't matter. These are examples of ways in which chiropractors, like you, like me, can help more people, not just locally, can help more people in more ways by not just going spine, subluxation, adjustment better, goodbye. It helps more people because it expands your conversation beyond the traditional chiropractic advertisement. Are you in pain and live locally and want to feel better and don't want to take drugs? I'm not saying there's anything bad about it. I'm saying it's limited, that there's a lot more to what we offer. And there haven't been a lot of models or examples to follow of other ways to do it beyond the traditional, oftentimes single doctor in practice. And that, you ask any business person, is one of the least efficient ways to run a business for a lot of reasons. You're not usually open 7 days a week and so on. You've got capacity. You've got staff. There's just lots of different ways you can be considering your business model for yourself and your future to serve even more people than you are right now, while giving yourself the flexibility of moving, of not having to be in a physical practice day in and day out. There's lots of reasons to protect your financial future by being open to new ways of generating revenue. And I don't just mean multi-level marketing or other ways to supplement your revenue that aren't completely congruent with your prime core message and service. So just an example, we often refer to Roger Bannister. Nobody was running the 4-minute mile until he did. Once everybody saw that it was possible, lots of people could do it right after. He's one of our sort of go-to concepts here. We want you to see what's possible. You may choose to reproduce it and get 500,000. You may not. You may just go, wow, what if I shared my message with my audience here locally? Maybe you offer some sort of online training on the days you're not in your practice. Maybe you're in somebody else's practice and you're not working 7 days a week. You're on 3 days, off 4 days. This is a way to use those other 4 days to teach and invite consistently, build an audience, create awareness of who you are, what you do, and how people can benefit by working with you. And if you're in it, he said it, we say it all the time, for the long game. This isn't the quick fix. Advertising is the drug of marketing. If you want the holistic, and there's a time and place for drugs. Let's just be clear. They're not always bad. There's a time and place. But if you want the philosophy of communication that's congruent with the philosophy of chiropractic care and natural health care, then you'll recognize it is a lifestyle, it is a process, and consistency wins the game. Grant's been doing it, he continues to do it, and hopefully you learn something that will inspire you to do it too.
Grant is a great example of what you can achieve if you dream a little bit different, if you think a little bit different, and then you take the action steps. One thing I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, those who pay attention. We've learned that ourselves at the Smart Chiropractor the hard way, Jason and I personally. And I would say it's a lesson that everybody should learn in their practice as well. That does not mean that you don't have an empathetic connection. That does not mean that you don't care about those who can't afford your services. You can choose to do things for those who can't afford. But it does mean that you need to protect and value your time. And inevitably, those individuals who show up, pay on time, and pay maybe not a premium, but a nice level of service will get the best results, because those are the individuals most likely to take action. Jason, let's head over to strategic marketing on today's episode of the Smart Chiropractor Show. Smart Chiropractor Show strategic marketing segment. Our strategic marketing segment is devoted to strategic marketing. This is a chance to talk about and showcase action steps that you can take in your practice to better market, to better communicate, and to better connect with more people in your community. Our title for today are the 4 keys to creating a subject line that skyrockets your open rates. A few weeks ago, I had the privilege and pleasure to head out to Las Vegas with Jason and provide a presentation to many docs at Parker Vegas. And this was part of that talk. And it's an important component when we talk about email. It all starts with, we could start with a few different things, but one of the most critical aspects of it are your subject lines. And there's 4 keys that I've identified. We at the Smart Chiropractor sent last year 6 million emails on behalf of our members, well over 1 million ourselves. And Jason and I are, oh my gosh, I don't even want to think, probably over 250 million total emails over the last 10 years between the two of us. So we've learned a thing or two throughout the scar tissue that we've developed as a result of sending all of those emails. Number one, that not the scar tissue side, but it has been exceptionally impactful, beneficial, and really given us the platform and ability to do what we do today. But we've made some missteps along the way. We're constantly learning and refining. We'd like to help you avoid some of those missteps. And there are 4 keys to creating a really high quality subject line that enables more people to open that email. If they don't get the content, if they're not opening that email, they can't take action. You're not going to have the opportunity to teach, and you can't invite unless they start to learn. So how do you craft a great subject line? 4 key items. I'll hit them quickly. I'll go into a little bit more detail on all 4. Then, Jason, I'd love to know your thoughts. Number 1 is keeping your subject line short. This is not the time to write the next great American novel. If you pull out your phone, you probably realize when you go to your email box, there's 8 to 10 words, and then it cuts off. And that's a really important piece of real estate, meaning if you save all the good stuff, don't bury the lead, as they would say in the newspaper industry. You want to ensure that right up front, your subject line is short, it is sweet, and very quickly you get to what we'll talk about in a moment, which are the benefits and what can be expected by opening the email. So keep things short. Don't go a paragraph or 2. The person will never see it, and you're going to plummet your open rates because the subject line If it's compelling, will lead to higher open rates. If your subject line is confusing, it's going to lead to lower open rates. You need to have that email open so that you have the opportunity to teach and invite. Number 2 is your sender address. You do not want an email coming from you or your practice from johnnypants47@gmail.com. You want to have it be something jeff@thesmartchiropractor.com, drjason@me.com, whatever it might be in your practice and with your account. Keep it on brand to ideally your practice URL or your practice website. So if I was langmaidchiropractic.com, I'd ideally want to have jeff@langmaidchiropractic or Dr. Jeff@langmaidchiropractic.com. In the event of the Smart Chiropractor, we have jeff@thesmartchiropractor.com, jason@thesmartchiropractor.com. So your sender address should be clear and it should tie to your URL. That's going to help your deliverability. Number 3 is an action verb. I love putting the word discover in a subject line because, as we talked about with keeping it short, it stimulates interest. And when somebody is discovering how to find relief, discovering how they can improve their performance, it starts to become compelling very, very quickly. So an action word is a great thing to put in your subject line. Discover is a great one. And the 4th component of that is personalization. I almost jumped the line with this one. So it's fantastic when you can use what's referred to as a merge field. That means if you've collected somebody's first name, last name, and email, in your subject line, you can do first name, discover how to improve your athletic performance today. I'm making that up, but that could be Jeff. Now, if I'm Jeff and I'm receiving that, that's personalization. That is going to drive, again, increased open rates because now it seems like you're speaking to me, not everybody. Here's the beauty of automated email tools. They can take care of a lot of this for you. You don't have to type in the first name of each individual. You can use what's called a merge field. That enables your system, as we have in Chiro emails with the Smart Chiropractor, automatically does this, inserts that first name wherever we'd like, last name, whatever we'd like, and delivers those personalized emails. Of course, the consistency component of this becomes critically important at a campaign level, but today I just wanted to focus on those subject lines. So if you are struggling with your open rates, if you don't feel like your open rates are really performing very well, take a look at your subject line. It's really the lead, the headline. It is what is bringing the story to your recipient. So keep it short. Have a nice sender address that is appropriate and URL driven for your practice website. Have an action-oriented verb. I love discover, and keep it personalized. Those are your tips for today to skyrocket your open rates via email. Jason, we've been doing this a long time with the Smart Chiropractor. We've been involved in email. What do you think of that? And what's maybe an additional point or two that you'd highlight as we talk about open rates, subject lines, and emails?
Yeah, I love what you said. I'm actually taking some notes and dusting off some cobwebs of some of the things I learned long ago that I'm glad you reminded me about. Listen, the word discover, or your version of whatever word appeals to you, is a great one because it also transitions from what you want to probably say, which is buy now, special offer, get this. And, one of the main things I think that hopefully you're getting from the culture of what we're bringing to the profession is that you want to put yourself in the point of view of the receiver. One of my closest friends, marketing expert, always says communication is a listener's phenomenon. And what that means is that it's not about what you say as much as it's about what they hear. And what you've said is gold, Jeff. The goal of the subject line is not to teach them everything. The goal of the subject line is to get them to do one simple thing, and that's open the email. So what do they need to hear? Not what do you want to say? What do they need to hear? What do they need to read in this case in order to go, well, that's interesting. That would be interesting for me, not, oh, wow, look, he's got another special offer. She's got another discount. They're having another patient appreciation day, which we all know is a disguise for we need more new patients. It's teaching and inviting consistently. It's bringing that consistency to your email program. Of course, if you want this done basically for you, that's what we do at the Smart Chiropractor with Chiro emails, as Jeff said. We've got a full service email system that helps you Understand how to do broadcast emails, how to do autoresponder emails. Those are two different types of emails. If you don't know the difference, you want to keep watching and learning what we're talking about, because those are two huge opportunities most chiropractors are not even understanding, let alone doing, in order to make sure that you are staying consistent and connected with your health tribe. That's your digital following. So stay consistent. What do people need to hear in order to go, that's interesting, click, and don't be a clickbait artist. That is the extreme. The concept is right. The application is wrong. But what do you need to say in order to be able to inspire people to authentically want to learn more from you? And the consistency key here, staying consistent with teaching consistently will help you build an audience. So in the future, when they see an email coming from you, they'll know it's not just another discount. It's not just another ad or sales attempt. It's something that authentically wants to teach them something valuable. That is how we've designed the Chiro Emails Weekly Research That Matters newsletter. And we'll talk about those in future episodes. If you can find one, if you want to learn more, see if you can find one and see how we break down the body of the email, which is another topic. If you don't get the subject line right, they don't click into the body. It doesn't matter what you've got in there. You could say, click here for free cash right here. But if they never opened it, doesn't matter. So understand what does what. That's part of learning how this whole system works. Don't tell me I'm too busy, I'm not interested, I don't care, that my staff is handling all of that. These are basics in today's technology-driven world. I don't care what kind of business you're in. You can't be too busy to understand. This is the equivalent of how you dial the telephone in years past. You can't be too busy to do that. You can't be too busy to go, well, how do I answer that ringing box? You've got to be aware of how these basic, simple tools, and email is one of those, like your phone. It is the powerhouse of your communication with your current clients, with your inactives that you should be staying in touch with to reactivate on a regular basis, with the list of people hopefully you're building by having the right widgets on your website, so that if they don't call now on your website, they've got an option to not just leave. These are the strategies. Today it's subject line, but it fits within the bigger, broader understanding that your email list might just be, Jeff talks about this also. This may sound crazy to some of you. We're going to say it again. Your email list might just be the most valuable asset you own. And we mean financially. If you know what to do with it, how to use it, where to find the value, it is a mine. You've got it's a gold mine. You got to know how to mine it. You've got to know how to use it right, how to not abuse it, and make sure you not just get the results, but getting results is a byproduct of doing the right thing. Learn how to do subject lines, and you are well on your way.
Email is a critical component, Jason. We're going to continue to dive into the nuance and intricacies in email amongst our subsequent episodes. But dial in those subject line docs. If you have questions, you can comment down below or shoot us a message. Let's head over to our final segment on today's show, and that is business principles. Here we go. Smart Chiropractor Show Business Principles segment. And today we are discussing how to calculate your minimum viable monthly income. This segment is brought to you by the Payday Practice. This is a big topic, Jason. This is an important topic. This is a concept that I first heard from you. This is about that MVMI. What does that mean, and why do docs need to pay attention?
This is, chiropractors are counterculture. We are, normally sort of against the mainstream grain. Not that we're against the mainstream, but the mainstream narrative for most people today is healthcare is drugs and shots and surgery. And most of us chiropractors, although know there's a time and place, don't call that healthcare. Well, we feel the same way when it comes to marketing. And when it comes to marketing, most people think, well, marketing is advertising, just like most people think healthcare is drugs and surgery. Wrong. In our opinion. You're welcome to yours. This is ours. And what we've learned over the years is a just different way of deconstructing success. And one of the main premises is of what we're teaching with the payday practice, and we'll get into MVMI in just a moment, but to create some context as to why should you care about learning this? The answer is because most chiropractors are living with chronic financial stress. Chronic financial stress. Do you feel that? Do you somewhere, I don't care how big your practice is, there's recent graduates who don't have chronic financial stress because they have learned how to keep their overhead low and their revenue more than their overhead, and they don't spend a lot of money and they're doing just fine. And there's other chiropractors that we know that have been in practice for decades. And yet month after month after month, the only conversation that they're able to give any attention and focus is to how am I getting more new patients? I need more new patients this month. I need at least X amount of people times X amount of dollars in order to not be financially stressed out. And our experience with thousands of chiropractors over decades now is that there are too many chiropractors who are accepting that as normal. This is the way it is. This is how the practice is. And you live frustrated. You get callous. You lose some of the humanity in practice. You focus on the numbers more than the people. You cut corners or maybe modify how you practice because the money pays better when you bill for certain things as opposed to say certain things. And you know what I'm talking about. If you are suffering from chronic financial stress or you don't want to suffer from chronic financial stress, this is your new formula. So here's how it goes. The question I'll ask you is, what is the least amount of money you absolutely must earn next month to not feel financially stressed? Now, that is the opposite question that just about every other coach, mentor, entrepreneur is going to ask you. They're going to ask you, what's your goal? What's your dream? What would you love to make? Well, I'd love to make $25 million next week. That's what I'd love to. And maybe it'll happen. I'm not going to put limits on it, but that hope is not a strategy. Okay. And what I found over the years is that most chiropractors are really people that love helping people. They're not necessarily those flashy, shiny, Rolls-Royce driving, Ferrari bling flinging entrepreneurs who are in it for the money. Most of us are doing this because we love helping people. But here's the paradox. You have a tough time helping people when you're the one who needs the help. When you're financially stressed out, are you at your best to be of service to others? Of course not. And that's what this equation solves for. Ask yourself, maybe even calculate as we go through right now in more tactical detail. What is the least amount of money you must earn to not feel financially stressed? Let's break that down. Every one of you has monthly recurring responsibilities, monthly recurring expenses. You've got rent, you've got staff, you've got insurances, you've got taxes that you'll have to pay based on your revenue. You've got your own salary. You've got car payments. You may have student debt payments. You may have savings that you know you need to put in for weddings or college or other things. You've got investment funds. There is a number, an amount of money that if somebody could write you a paycheck for every single month that you are guaranteed to receive, some of you would actually say, I'll take the guaranteed payment. It's not going to make me rich. I don't want to be rich. I just don't want to be broke and poor. I don't know service professionals who can perform at their best if they're the ones who are struggling financially. It just doesn't add up to me. And I probably think you feel the same. So the context of this conversation is for you to be the best chiropractor, the best doctor, the best service professional. However you think of yourself, for you to be your best, you have to get rid of the financial stress you live under. And the way to do that is to guarantee that each and every month you've got recurring income that meets your recurring expenses. So you might need to talk to your bookkeeper. You might need to talk to a family member. You might just need to take a few minutes, a cup of coffee, beer, wine, whatever your relaxing drug of choice is, and look at your numbers, your monthly numbers. What am I on the hook for? What am I responsible for? What am I guaranteed to pay next month? That is your minimum viable monthly income. The least amount of money you must make to not feel stressed out. And here's the philosophy. If you knew you could earn that money on the first day of every month, instead of going, think about the first day of every month. Most people hate the first, unless you're a landlord or a bank, right? Why? Because the first of the month, every business owner, especially professional service, if you own your own practice, your monthly revenue goes back to zero. You go back to, oh my God, back to zero at the same time, often on the same day that all your bills are coming in. How bass-ackwards is that? So what we're saying is, let's think about this differently. What do we need to do to guarantee monthly revenue that meets? I'm not saying change your whole business model. I'm not saying you should only do this. I'm saying that you should think about, how do I create monthly recurring revenue that I'm guaranteed to earn to cover those monthly expenses I'm guaranteed to pay? And once you've been able to level that off, we call that building your payday practice, because the first of the month goes from, oh man, back to zero, all the bills coming in, and turns into payday. Yahoo! We're generating enough monthly revenue to cover all our expenses this month. The rest of the month should be fun, play, and profit. Mostly profit. We know there's incremental expenses depending what you do, but mostly profit. You got your expenses covered. Mostly profit. And when you have your financial security in place month after month after month after month, you can afford to tell the truth. You can afford to explain chiropractic the way you want to the people you want to the payers you do or don't want to work with. And you can, in fact, build the practice of your dreams and live your ideal lifestyle, whatever that looks like. Some of you go, I just want to cover my expenses. I put some money away. I got my savings all set. I just want to pay my bills and serve people. Great. This is the model. Others of you say, no, I want to go for it. Terrific. You want to make as much as you can? Here's how to do it. Have fun serving people. How do you do that? Don't have any financial stress, and you can have fun serving people. That's how the formula works. It's different than anybody else is teaching out there. It's called the payday practice, how to cover your monthly expenses in one day guaranteed. You need to know your MVMI, your minimum viable monthly income. In order to start the game, keep your eyes out for more training. Jeff, what did I miss on that whole formula? What stands out for you, buddy?
I think you absolutely nailed it. The things that come to mind for me that I think docs need to keep in mind is whether you look at large companies, Amazon, Netflix, Peloton, there's subscription recurring revenue coming in that enables them to grow. It fuels the growth of the business. Now, you might say to yourself, gosh, I don't have anything in common with those. Okay, well, look at local gyms in your area. Yes, they've gone through struggles with over the last couple of years with the craziness that's gone on, but in general, the whole gym model is hundreds of people have memberships, and those that come in, and that's what fuels the opportunity. If you had to pay every time you went to the gym, I think you've used this example, Jason, in the past. If you had to pay every time you went to the gym, there probably wouldn't be too many gyms out there because it's just like struggling. You have to get to yes every single time. So building subscription revenue is incredibly important to be able to fuel the growth of your practice. Diversifies your revenue stream, gives you the opportunity to have new revenue come in, decreases your stress, increases top line, increases bottom line as well. And it starts with understanding what those fixed expenses are, as you brought up, Jason. So understanding what are your expenses, that they're not going away. If you love the practice, you love the four walls of your practice, you got a long-term lease there, or maybe you own the building, there's a mortgage associated with it, great, check it off. That's an expense you're paying each and every month. Your heat, your electric, whatever it might be that every single month these expenses are coming down the pipe. Your practice would be a heck of a lot different if you knew you had passive recurring revenue that met those minimum expenses. It gives you the opportunity to create a lot more revenue in the practice. It also just gives you the opportunity to have a lot more fun, quite frankly. When you're not stressing out about that bill and those bills and having to get to 1 million yeses per month, it's just a hell of a lot more fun. And that's an important component of life. That's an important component of business, and dare I say, an important component of being a chiropractor. Jason, we have had a fantastic episode of today's Smart Chiropractor Show. I'm going to bring both of us up on the screen right now. We talked about the biology of belief. We had Dr. Lisa Thomson present about ACL issues. We discussed our monthly campaign, which is about the athlete in everyone and how professional sports, you can lean into that as you teach and invite your way to success. Dr. Erik Van Slooten doing a great job doing exactly that. I'm looking at my show notes here. Dr. Grant Elliott steamrolling his way to 250,000 followers in an online exclusive business, probably within a month or two of being out of chiropractic school. Talked about email subject lines, and we just finished up with payday practice, minimum viable monthly income. Dare I say, these shows keep getting better and better. We have a ton of awesome guests lined up in the future, and it's only going to get better from here. What are your thoughts as we wrap up today's Smart Chiropractor Show?
Well, hopefully all of you are learning by watching what we're doing as much as you are listening to what we're saying. This is how it's done. We're practicing what we preach. And if you keep on listening and watching, you too will learn the elements of how you can build this type of practice, how you can practice financially stress-free, which means you can have fun and you can do it the way you want to do it. And we just love we love teaching, inviting you on a regular basis. We teach you something, and then we go, listen, if you want to learn more, go to thesmartchiropractor.com or whoever we're interviewing and supporting or whatever it may be. This is fun for us. We do it because we love to do it. We also know it works. So, we're not here selling you anything. There's plenty of you that may be watching because you don't like us or, you're just watching to take the ideas and you'll never give us $1. And that's fine. There's enough of you who go, this is good stuff. What they're saying makes perfect sense to me. You mean there's a way I can fast track my results and not have to, what is it? A smart man doesn't make the same mistake twice. A wise one doesn't make the mistake others made. So be wise. I guess maybe we should call it the wise chiropractor, but that'll screw everything up. You got the point. One thing I just want to leave with is engage with us. If you've got questions, leave them down below. If you've got comments, if you've got examples of things you're doing that you want to get on our radar, not spam, but hey, if you're doing videos that are making an impact, we want to know. If you're using technology in a way that's making an impact, we want to know. We love sharing this with all of you. And so if you're not on our radar now, join us. Leave your comment down below, private messages if you're worried it'll be spam. This is what it's all about. We're doing our best to be of most service to you. Our only request, subscribe. Make sure that you get notifications every week when the show gets broadcast. Ask questions, leave comments, keep them, kind and appropriate. We're not looking for you haters and all that stuff. We know you're out there, but, keep that to yourself. Have fun with the process. Hopefully you keep learning with us. If you think it's valuable, share it with others you think might enjoy learning also. Get an accountability partner. Do this together. Learn with us as a team. Keep implementing everything. Ask questions. If there's something we're missing that you think we should know, leave it in the comments or direct message us. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Until then, Jeff and I are going to keep on plugging away at how we can continue to be of more service to you. Good thing we know we got enough recurring revenue to pay all our bills, so we get to have fun being of service to you. Jeff, thanks for being such an awesome partner, man. It's such great working with you, and I love the impact that we're making and the feedback we get from so many others.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual. It takes two to tango. We're going to keep having fun with this show and encourage everybody out there. If you would like to discover how we can automate a lot of the processes we talk about on the show, you can head over to smartchiropractor.com whenever you like. And be sure to hit up the blog. There's a ridiculous amount of fantastic content available on our blog, whether you're interested in marketing, clinical, interviews. It's pretty awesome. We spent a lot of time there. So head over, check it out, and most importantly, join us next Tuesday for another Smart Chiropractor show where we will have fantastic guests. We'll offer some insight in the process and we'll have a lot of fun along the way. Have an awesome week, Doc, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Chiropractor. We are posting videos on how you can market your chiropractic practice in a way that teach and invites consistently. We have found that is the magic formula to big time growth. So if you like this video, be sure to comment down below, smash that subscribe button, or visit us at thesmartchiropractor.com.